Imagine a place so secret that not even the world's most knowledgeable individuals could enter. A holy mountain that no one is brave enough to climb, a temple that keeps secrets that have been lost to time, and unknown caves that are full of who knows what. What are they really hiding from us? The public may never be able to visit these historical places. Mount Kailash. You won't find a mountain like Mount Kailash. Standing at over 21,000 feet, it's an incredible sight. But what really makes it special isn't just its height. It's that no one has ever made it to the top. It's not that they can't, it's just that they choose not to. This place is truly one of the most sacred, mysterious and forbidden spots on our planet. But why's that? The name Kailash has its roots in Sanskrit, where it means crystal or shining. This name perfectly captures the essence of a mountain that appears almost otherworldly. In Tibet, they call it Gang Rinpoche, or Precious Snow Mountain. It's a name that really shows how much respect people have for it. But there's a lot more to it than just the name. This mountain has been viewed as a connection between heaven and earth for thousands of years. Kailash in Hinduism isn't just any rock formation. It's the heavenly abode of Lord Shiva, where he's found deep in meditation with his consort, Parvati. Some ancient texts even talk about its 4 faces being made of crystal, gold, ruby, and lapis lazuli, showing that this place was never just meant to be another mountain. They say just looking at it can wash away a person's sins. If someone goes beyond gazing, what happens? Buddhists think of Kailash as the cosmic center of the universe. For them, this is Mount Meru, the dwelling place of the mighty deity Demchok, who embodies ultimate bliss. There are stories about an 11th century Buddhist master named Milarepa, who meditated in this very spot. He had a mystical showdown with the Bon shaman Naro Bonchung, who also believed he could tap into the mountain's power. Rumored to involve supernatural powers, their duel concluded with Milarepa emerging victorious, securing Kailash's place in Buddhism forever. However, respect for Kailash goes beyond that. Jains refer to it as Ashtapada because they think that on this particular peak, their first Tirthankara, Rishabhanatha, achieved moksha, or freedom from the cycle of reincarnation. It is also considered the holy abode of Sipai men, a sky goddess, in Tibet's pre-Buddhist Bon religion. One fundamental idea unites all of the customs associated with Kailash. This location is not only unique, but indestructible. Mount Kailash is one of Asia's most significant natural monuments, in addition to its spiritual significance. It is the source of 4 of the continent's most important rivers, the Indus, Sutlej, Brahmaputra, and Karnali, garnering it the nickname the Water Tower of Asia. Even the lakes around it seem to tell a narrative. Consider Lake Manasarovar, where the pristine waters symbolize purity and enlightenment. Next to it is Lake Rakshastal, a black, lifeless body of water that is often connected with demons and evil energies. The difference is striking. One lake is revered, while the other is feared. The mountain seems to live in a state of equilibrium between heavenly and unknown energies. For those who come here, the genuine act of devotion is not climbing the peak, but circumambulating the base. The Kailash Kora, a holy 32-mile trip around the mountain, is one of the most difficult yet spiritually gratifying excursions one may do. It typically takes 3 days, although the most committed undertake it in 1 day. And then there are some who go all out, prostrating themselves every few steps, extending the trek into weeks of arduous commitment. The route is not easy. At its highest point, Dolmala Pass, the path rises over 18,000 feet, when oxygen is limited and each step seems heavier. Despite the hardship, cold and rough terrain, millions undertake this trek, thinking it will erase centuries of negative karma. While millions have gone around Kailash, no one has ever stepped foot on its summit. Unlike Everest or K2, this peak has yet to be conquered, not because it is hard to climb, but because it is banned. Over the years, many people have considered doing it. Hugh Rutledge, a British adventurer, investigated the peak in the early 1900s before concluding that it was not designed to be climbed. Decades later, famed mountaineer Reinhold Messner, one of the greatest climbers of all time, asked permission to make the ascent. However, the Chinese government sent him away. The Chinese government eventually placed an official prohibition on climbing Kailash, not for political reasons, but out of respect for the hallowed site. And maybe that's how it should be. Certain areas are not designed to be conquered. Some secrets are intended to stay unexplored. The hidden caves of Mogao. Imagine finding a secret room that hasn't been used in hundreds of years and is full of old books and lost artifacts. In 1900, that's exactly what happened. A cave in China that looked like any other turned out to be one of the most amazing historical finds ever. The Mogao Caves are a beautiful group of old Buddhist grottos that can be found near the famous Silk Road town of Dunhuang. The caves have secrets from the past that have been kept hidden for more than 1,000 years in their beautifully painted walls and holy statues. What makes them even more intriguing is the story of a strange cave that had been closed for hundreds of years until one terrible day. In the year 366 AD, a Buddhist monk had a vision of 1,000 golden Buddhas shining in the sky. This was the start of the Mogao Cave's history. This holy moment moved him, prompting him to carve out a small meditation cave in the rocks. He didn't know it at the time, but this began a tradition that has lasted for more than 1,000 years. It began as a place for one person to escape, but it quickly grew into something much bigger. Generations of masters, traders, and devoted Buddhists helped build more caves. The caves are filled with beautiful paintings, detailed carvings, and statues of gods and goddesses. The Mogao Caves became one of the most important places for Buddhist art in the world over time. It was a place where faith, culture, and outstanding art came together to make something truly amazing. Lascaux Cave. Many of history's most remarkable discoveries have happened by chance. There's this hidden doorway, right? This is a tunnel that completely escaped detection, revealing a tiny crack that leads to something truly breathtaking. That's how the prehistoric paintings of Lascaux Cave in France, one of the most haunting and awe-inspiring sites in the world, came to light. The year was 1940 when this remarkable discovery took place. A group of teenagers strolled through the picturesque French countryside when their dog unexpectedly dashed into a hole in the ground. As they ventured in after him, they discovered themselves in a shadowy, cavernous expanse, entirely oblivious to the fact that they were staring upon something unseen for thousands of years. As their eyes acclimated to the low light, the walls surrounding them sharpened into view. Incredibly, they saw something. Majestic bulls, stags, and horses leap across the stone, rendered with such artistry and precision that they appear to spring to life. The images were not mere random scribbles. They were thoughtfully created, utilizing natural pigments and arranged with a remarkable sense of movement and proportion that was truly astonishing for such an ancient era. The discovery was rapidly disseminated. Archaeologists arrived and verified that the engravings were over 17,000 years old, making them one of the earliest known examples of human art. And with that, Lascaux became an international sensation. Tourists poured in, anxious to witness the magnificent images for themselves. But there was something wrong. Nobody should have been in that cave. Since there were so many people inside, the heat and humidity started to change the air. The carbon dioxide in their breath caused mist, which allowed bacteria and mold to grow. People who wanted to look at this ancient work of art were slowly destroying it. Scientists knew the damage was too great by the 1960s. If they don't act quickly, the works could disappear permanently. In 1963, the French government had to make the tough choice to keep the people out of Lascaux. After that, only a few experts have been able to get inside. The cave is still in danger, even with all the safety measures in place. The art is still in danger because of fungal growth and changes in temperature. The public's interest prompted the creation of a nearby copy known as L'Archaeological 2, which resembled the original works in every detail. It's the only way for people to experience the old wonder without putting its life at risk. Cave of the Mummies. But Lascaux isn't the only place where the past has been kept alive in a strange way. Another astonishing find was discovered thousands of miles away, deep in the heart of Mexico, one that left behind not simply pictures of the past, but the past itself. A devastating cholera attack struck Guanajuato in the 1800s. It didn't take long for the disease to spread. The dead were quickly buried in simple graves. The dry air, mineral-rich earth, and closed crypts of the graveyard made it the right place for something that no one saw coming. They were shocked when, in the future, workers at the cemetery dug up corpses to pay an outstanding burial tax. They didn't find skeletons. Instead, they found bodies that had naturally preserved. Their skin, clothes, and even facial emotions looked very much the same. Some of them looked like they were stuck in the past. Their hands were still curled, and their mouths were open in quiet screams. Initially, we simply stored the mummies, but word got around, and soon people in the area were eager to see them. What began as a simple storage area turned into a basement drawer where people paid to see the strange and scary remains. The need for them had grown so much by 1969 that the Museo de las Momias, a formal museum, opened. More than 100 mummies are on display these days. Each one is different. Few of them continue to wear the clothing they donned during their burial. Some of them are babies, and the details of their tiny bodies are sad. Others have faces that look so real that you can't help but wonder what their last moments were like. People from all over the world come to the museum every year to see the past in its most natural form. Not everyone agrees with the idea of putting human parts on display, though. People who disagree say that showing these bodies is rude and turns real people's lives into a show. Others are worried about preservation, since it's not simple to keep these mummies whole. Temperature, humidity, and light exposure changes can speed up their decomposition. In 2023, worries intensified when specialists found a fungus growing on one of the mummies, leading to questions over their level of care. The Library of Alexandria. This was more than just a library. It was an incredible hub of knowledge, where smart people came together to explore and expand the limits of science, math, and philosophy. What would happen if the world's greatest collection of wisdom suddenly disappeared? Have you ever wondered how much of human history slipped away when the Library of Alexandria fell? It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? Back in the 3rd century BCE, this amazing place was created by the Greek rulers of Egypt, known as the Ptolemies, who came into power after Alexander the Great's conquests. Ptolemy. I had this brilliant idea. He wanted to turn Alexandria into the brainy hub of the world. Ptolemy II, his successor, really brought that dream to life by building the library as part of the Mouseion, which was a research institute dedicated to the Muses, the Greek goddesses of art and science. And just like that, Alexandria turned into a shining light for scholars all around. The Ptolemies were extremely motivated in their pursuit of knowledge. They weren't just gathering books, they were grabbing every bit of information they could find. Agents traveled all over Egypt, Greece, Persia, and India, pretty much anywhere civilization had made its mark, to collect texts. There are even tales that say ships coming into Alexandria had to give up their books. The authorities would copy the documents and give back the duplicates while keeping the originals for themselves. Is that fair? No way. They were creating something totally new, the biggest collection of knowledge the world had ever known. At its peak, the library likely had around 400,000 to 700,000 scrolls. These weren't just dusty old manuscripts, they were the building blocks of discoveries that shaped what was to come. Eratosthenes, the head librarian at the library, figured out the Earth's circumference with surprising precision, using just shadows and some simple geometry. Hipparchus revolutionized astronomy by compiling the first known star catalogue and determining the precession of the equinoxes. Herophilus was one of the first anatomists who took a close look at the nervous system and discovered the difference between veins and arteries. Callimachus significantly revolutionized the organization of knowledge. He created one of the very first library cataloging systems. For centuries, Alexandria was the go-to place for learning. But you know how it goes. Nothing lasts forever. And the Library of Alexandria? It didn't just vanish in a big, dramatic fire. It was gradually worn down, bit by bit, over the years. The first big blow might have happened in 48 BCE, when Julius Caesar found himself stuck in Alexandria during a civil war. In a bit of a panic, he had his men set fire to the enemy's ships. But that fire didn't just stay at the harbor, it spread into the city, and some say it even reached the library, taking out countless scrolls. Still, Alexandria's hunger for knowledge didn't just fizzle out that day. Back in the early 2000s, the Egyptian government teamed up with UNESCO to revive that vision. Right by where the ancient library once stood, a new place was created, the Bibliotheca Alexandrina. This modern library is more than just a building. It represents something bigger. The circular design symbolizes a rising sun, reminding us that knowledge, even when lost, can always be found again. Although we may never fully comprehend the extent of the Library of Alexandria's loss, its legacy undoubtedly endures. The desire to learn and the passion for sharing ideas is something that can't ever really fade away. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.